Return to June 12 for justice and democracy. The present military junta should understand that the only vacancy in Nigeria today is that of the office of the president at Abuja, and not in the 450 local government areas, and not in the 30 or 36 states of the federation. Rotation already took place in 1993 through the interplay of political forces. Future rotation can still take place. The present contrived arrangement is a booby trap which has no built-in order of baton change, and which cannot be policed orderly for 30 years, except that the military is assuring Nigerians that it will continue as the police for 30 years. The question is, continue as what? Once the vacancy in the presidential villa can be settled, all other issues can be addressed. Can we still organize the solution around June 12, 1993? I believe so. Nigeria needs a civilian government of national unity now to commence the democratic transition. Transition program sold to the world in 1995 is an exercise in self-deception, and it is meant to get a breathing space for the military to continue to wax strong while Nigeria decays. In the language of the former vice president, Dr. Alex Ekwim, in his reasoned analysis in 1994, an extra year for General Abaka. There will be no Nigeria to revive. How prophetic in 1994, but we are now in 1996. Who can revive Nigeria today, the military junta or the people of Nigeria? The latter, because the former having failed, it therefore has no moral right to preside over another transition program. What Dr. Ekwim was saying was that Nigeria should recognize the warning signs of Nigerian collapse, which qualifies Nigeria to be in the category of states that the Commission of the Carnegie Corporation of New York is studying. The total collapse might take a longer time to happen, but the signs are there already. The ethnic dimension to the political stalemate is well acknowledged by scholars and policy makers who understand the Nigerian political scene. The military junta is working on this by labeling the Yorubas as the bad guys because they want justice, eliminate politicized and ethnicized military. The second issue is that a Nigerian democratic government can only survive in an atmosphere free of the highly politicized and highly ethnicized Nigerian army. A democratic order in Nigeria will need a plan of demilitarization and depoliticization. After the lecture, my students of the comparative politics class reminded me of what the Allied powers did in Germany and Japan after World War II. There is a lesson here. This is where the active support of the developed democracies in the West will be immensely needed. To my students I'll say that Germany and Japan were defeated in a war and were occupied by Allied powers. Nigeria is not, but the 2Ds is needed. Canada and the Nordic countries should be approached. Certainly not Britain, which created the problem. The military in Haiti was chased out of Haiti by a combined force of the US and Canada. Short of the method applied to Haitian military strongmen, there are other mechanisms for tackling this problem by using the time-tried norm enforcement modalities in the world. 30. What is urgently needed is that the Commonwealth should develop some biting teeth and act like the Organization of American States, OAS. Through the indefatigable effort of Canada, the OAS was able to adopt the Santiago Declaration on Representative Democracy, under which the Haitian Democratization Plan was hatched and implemented through the United Nations. 31. New basis of Nigerian Federation System. The third issue has to do with the very basis of the territorial integrity of African countries. Nigeria, like many African countries, was created without the accredited representatives of the nation-states being involved. Accredited, not military-sponsored representatives of the nationalities should now meet and negotiate a union based on justice and mutual respect. One option, which might seem extreme, is that the Nigerian crisis should be resolved within the context of overcoming what Ali Mzrui calls the bondage of boundaries, which could necessitate the redrawing of African maps. This might become necessary if the military junta cannot agree to an arrangement which assures of the opportunity and possibility of a shift of power from the north to the south through the interplay of democratic forces like the verdicts of the June 12, 1993, and if the present ethno-military clique continues to preside over a contrived endless transition program. The less extreme option is that Nigeria should voluntarily embark on this instead of allowing the state to collapse. The signs are there already. We all know that Nigeria is held together by force of arm, and for how long will this army of occupation continue? 32. Another option is for the nation-states that existed before the advent of the colonial power should be given the long-sought opportunity to negotiate the basis of the Union under the Commonwealth auspices and resolve once and for all the national question. 3 or so countries might emerge from Nigeria. This might seem more feasible because the military would not allow this to take place because of its vested interest in keeping Nigeria one. Nigerian Federal Union was never a negotiated arrangement. The amalgamation of 1914 and successive territorial reorganizations such as regionalization, state creation and other federal arrangements never took the pre-colonial nation-states as the unit of consultation. This option should be explored as this might force the ethno-military clique to rethink the permanent hold to political power and monopoly over the oil money. Maybe a national conference made up of accredited representatives of pre-colonial nationalities offers an opportunity to explore a new basis of the Nigerian federal system as part of the process of redrawing African boundaries. 33. Mistake of 1914 should be revisited. We should go over the documents on the amalgamation which are now available. Nigerians were once reminded of the 1914 event with the 8-word statement by the late Sardauna of Sokoro 34 which he uttered in the House of Representatives. The mistake of 1914 has come to light following the crisis of 1953 over the independence motion by Chief Anthony Nehru. 35. This mistake of 1914 was re-echoed again by Northern leaders in 1966 following the coup and killings of Northern leaders in January 1966 and the retaliatory coup later culminating in the killing of Igbo leaders in July, August 1966. But after successfully establishing themselves as the dominant force at the federal level, the whole issue of the mistake of 1914 became a blessing of 1914. They now want a Nigeria because they are in change, and they will ensure that no opportunity should ever be created for a discussion of the genesis of Nigeria. In fact, until recently, the documents about amalgamation were never available and the rationale for the blueprint was never discussed or taught in our schools. 36. The threatened divorce occurred at the Ibadan General Conference in 1950 when for the first and last time the real leaders of the various groups came together. On occasion the emirs of Katsina and Zaria threatened that unless the northern region was given 50% of the seats in the proposed House of Representatives, they would ask for separation from the rest of Nigeria on the arrangement existing before 1914. The British colonial administration ruled in favor of the preferred northern representatives and so commenced the unequal power relation between the north and the south. This would have been the opportunity for the southern leaders to insist on parity and negotiate the basis of the Union. They failed, and they again failed in 1966, especially when the coup of January 1966 and the counter-coup of July 1966 took ethnic tone between the North and the East, which ended in a civil war. Maybe the beginning of the solution should concentrate on reducing the power of the federal government. As a first step, the existing states should be made to assume control over their natural resources including minerals and mineral oil. They should also assume the functions in the area of social services, education and health, capital development. Under this arrangement, the common services should be identified which might center around currency, foreign affairs, telecommunications, etc. But defense, police and prisons will initially be state matter as spending a new basis of the Union. We need to reduce the stake of politics which is at the moment too high. We must reduce the enormous power and resources and functions which the federal government commands. Initially the federal government should be made less attractive and the states more attractive. Some states might not survive, they should seek merger with state or give up some of the functions such as the tertiary institutions. The military never allowed the federal system to function, and the majority ethnic groups have been making sure that the claims of the minorities in the South over mineral oil was neutralized by evoking the obnoxious colonial ordinances on land and mineral oils. I saw how the three majority groups conspired against the oil-producing areas when I served on Technical Committee on Revenue Allocation in 1977-78. On oil matters, the three majority groups are united. The colonial experiment should therefore be disbanded because it has failed to guarantee a stable democratic order in Nigeria. We should return power to the people and let them decide who they want to work with or live with. On this I rest my case. I thank Madam President, Naura Sudarkaza, Dr. Adolph Wilburn, Director of the Center for Public Policy and Diplomacy, and Dr. Aro Posiconi, Director of African Studies, for the honor done me and for the opportunity given me to bear my mind on the vexed question of the future of Nigeria. My historical political excursion should be supplemented with Jeffrey Herbst's recent query, "Is Nigeria a viable state?" which was approached from the political economy angle. 37. Political risk analysts have their own yardstick and have concluded that beside investment in the oil sectors, Nigeria is perceived as the third riskiest place in the world after Iraq and Russia to do business. 38. All these are warning signs of a state collapse, and maybe Lincoln can reverse the trend. But the solution must be predicated on justice, and as Wole Soyinka aptly puts it, to keep Nigeria one, justice must be done. We never had it in 1914, it vanished throughout the colonial period. Chief Awolowo, Drive. Azikiwe, Chief Nehru and Chief Abiola never had it, the Igbos did not have it, and today it is the turn of the over 12 million voters who went to the poll on June 12, 1993. For the first time majority voters in Kano, Kaduna, Borno, Yobe, Jigawa, Plateau, Taraba, Benue, Kwara, North, Anambra, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, Osun, Edo, Delta, South, supported a Southerner in 1993. How many Nigerians know that Nigerians would have been having another presidential election in June 1997? Of course, we should have had a second gubernatorial election in 1995. This is what democracy is all about, the possibility of another election. Nigerians' faith in another presidential election does not exist, except it is meant to anoint a political general. Let me stop here, and readers should await my account in a book.